What's going on, everybody? This is Eddie from the Too Heavy Wrestling Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about the 1992 Royal Rumble. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to Nick Opalewski for suggesting this. This is something that we definitely want to take a deeper dive into and go over the Royal Rumble match itself. Of course, this was a very prestigious Royal Rumble because we got to see the WWF World Heavyweight Championship be the prize of the Royal Rumble. And of course, the personalities that came along with it. We got to see the Macho Man Randy Savage, we got to see Sid Justice, Hulk Hogan, and of course the real world's champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Going into this match, the Nature Boy Ric Flair was one of the most hated villains in the WWE, and no one wanted to see him with the World Heavyweight Championship other than Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mr. Perfect, of course. When we saw Ric Flair enter at number 3, it seemed like Ric Flair winning the WWF World Heavyweight Championship was a long ways away, and we may not have even seen him with that WWF World Heavyweight Championship. All the cards were stacked against him, and he was getting beat up the entire match by everyone who came face to face with him. Ric Flair lasted 60 minutes in this Royal Rumble match, and it still seemed like towards the end he was going to get eliminated. However, after Sid Justice eliminated Hulk Hogan decided to hold Sid Justice's arm, and Ric Flair got to get the easy elimination and became the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. No one saw this coming, as he's been claiming to be the real world's champion ever since coming over to the WWF with the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. It seemed like he was a fraud, and it seemed like Hulk Hogan was bound to keep the WWF Championship and win that match based off of his previous wins in 1990 and 1991. Of course, in my opinion, the most important part of this match was the severity of Ric Flair winning the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. It was supposed to create a giant feud between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, who were the two most popular wrestlers in the whole world at that point. And we were supposed to see the dream matchup come to take place at WrestleMania. However, these plans with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair ended up getting nixed, and it ended up being Macho Man Randy Savage who got to face Ric Flair at WrestleMania. Instead, Hulk Hogan got to fight Sid Justice, which ended up being a lackluster main event for WrestleMania. On top of that, we got to see a pretty poor feud with Ric Flair and the Macho Man Randy Savage as well. Ric Flair ended up just talking about Miss Elizabeth the entire time, and Randy Savage ended up winning the WWF World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. While the pieces didn't fall into place with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, I thought this Royal Rumble match was spectacular. You got to see how Ric Flair really was before getting into the WWF and what he would do in the future. Ric Flair was supposed to be a mainstay in the WWF, and we were supposed to see so much go on with his success. That WWF title run that he did end up having wasn't as big as it should have been. He should have been the man, and he should have had so much more time with that WWF World title. And on top of that, he should have had a big fight with Hulk Hogan. Having the top baby face in the WWF and the top heel in the WWF, not just in the WWF even, and the whole wrestling world would have been so perfect. And it would have created so much more competition for other wrestling companies as well. You want to see wrestling companies pick up these big stars, and you want to see them do so much more with them. However, Vince McMahon had other ideas for the two. Yes, we did end up seeing that match in WCW later on in the future. However, imagine what that match would have been if both men were in their prime. In 1992, Ric Flair was the dirtiest player in the game. He was the real world's champion, and he was the top heel and made everyone so mad to the point where they wanted to see Hulk Hogan beat the hell out of him. And the credibility that Hulk Hogan would have gotten for beating the dirtiest player in the game and the real world's champion would have been even more perfect. Instead, we did have a pretty lackluster match between him and Randy Savage. However, the two made up for it in WCW because I thought their feud in WCW between the two was even better. Randy Savage's title reign didn't last too long because he was a part of a steroid scandal, and it appeared his in-real-life relationship with Miss Elizabeth was starting to disintegrate at the same time. Yes, this is a Royal Rumble review, and yes, we're talking a lot about WrestleMania and things that happened after the Royal Rumble, but this Royal Rumble was so severe in terms of we're supposed to see Ric Flair fight Hulk Hogan in their primes. It was right on a silver platter for WWE fans and ended up getting taken away because Vince McMahon wanted to change plans, and it seemed like that was something that was very important for future success of WWE in 1992 leading to 1993, because it seemed like such big stars ended up leaving the WWE, such as Jake the Snake Roberts, Sid Justice, and later down the line ended up being Hulk Hogan. While I feel like several issues came from this Royal Rumble match, I would not change a single thing about the match. This showed Ric Flair really was the man and the real world's champion. It showed that he could be a mainstay for the WWE, and it showed that he really was the best wrestler in the world at the time. However, I feel like what Vince McMahon had plans for ended up being Ric Flair's demise within the WWF, and there had to be big changes made in order for Ric Flair to stay. Ric Flair became the ultimate heel because of this, and we got to see some glory from him. However, the fans loved that Randy Macho Man Savage didn't win back the WWF World Championship because of this win that Ric Flair had. No one wanted to see Ric Flair win the WWF World Championship at the Royal Rumble. However, of course, big things happened. He lasted 60 minutes, and up showing why he is the best wrestler in the world. Ric Flair is the man. He will always be the man, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this Royal Rumble match too. Of course, my opinion is one thing, but I want to hear everyone's opinions, and we may be able to do a review about it on the Too Heavy podcast. So please comment down below what you would like to see in the future, your opinions of my review, and please let me know any ideas that you'd like to see for future Too Heavy Wrestling podcasts, TikToks, or YouTube videos. Until next time, my name is Eddie with Too Heavy Wrestling Podcast, and I'll check you later.